Now, blackouts will not only impact the country's economy negatively, but also result in people losing their jobs. Now, let's discuss this now with Bonang Mohale from the University of the Free State. He's a Chancellor there, but he's also the President of Business Unity South Africa, BUSA. Ndate Mohale, good afternoon, and thank you very much for your time. In just about an hour or so to go, we are expecting Eskom leadership to brief the country about the state of affairs there in terms of the ongoing current rolling blackouts. I've just spoken to my colleague in Glasgow, in Scotland, Spamandla Goka, who's covering the COP26. One of the big headaches that's facing the South African delegation there is around Eskom. Everybody's talking about Eskom. Mr. Andre de Ruyter has flown back to South Africa. He'll be addressing us in about an hour or so. I mean, Eskom is a huge challenge. You can't talk about economic recovery if you don't fix Eskom.
Precisely, Braden, because energy is the fourth means of production when land is the primary means of production. But two things mitigate against stage 4 load shedding. One, we are in day 596 of national lockdown, almost 19 months. Some offices in Sandton are only 30% capacity. Secondly, it is because it's summer in South Africa, not winter. Imagine if the offices and the country was on full production and it was in winter. What then was Eskom going to do? The last piece, Braden, is because, you know, the politicians intervened and we had the 1st of November elections where electricity was supplied. None of us are talking about the future workforce of this country, the grade 12 learners that had to prepare, study, and write their first paper in absolute darkness. But remember, the rolling blackout started in January of 2008. So in 13 years, we have not been able to get ourselves out of this morass, thereby leading to the lowest levels of confidence, trust, and hope since the Second World War. What is it that we are going to do? Because as a country, we are really in a spot of bother. There were 38,000 small and medium enterprises before COVID. Now they are down to 12,000. When you say to small, medium enterprises, where jobs are created in large numbers, the BRICS counterparts, 60% of new jobs are created by small and medium enterprises. If you say to them, you've got 8 working days in a day, and we are going to switch off 2 in the morning, 2 in the afternoon, you take half their productive capacity. What then are you going to do when these businesses fail? Because that's exactly where we are going to, my dear brother.
Yeah, then we're going to lose more jobs. And of course, you won't be able to reignite or ignite this economy. Now, you are the president of BUSA. President of BUSA, Business Unity South Africa. That is why I just want you to put that head on. As a business leader, how do you think Eskom can be fixed? The NUM is calling for the resignation of Mr. Andre de Ruyter and the board of Eskom. COSATU is a little bit more moderate. I mean, how do you fix Eskom in a way that will deliver sustainable electricity?
So at the moment, the electricity is it's sporadic, it's unreliable, and indeed, it has left us in a spot of bother. Number 2, as business, we are saying each time the lights go off, pre-COVID, we used to lose $1 billion to $2 billion a day, every day. We wipe off an entire percentage point from our GDP. Now, we are losing $3 billion on average a day, every day. There will be no economic reconstruction and recovery plan to be spoken about. In fact, there is not going to be any investment when we get into this season where we join the president in encouraging foreign direct investment that is fronted by direct domestic investment. And really the problems of Eskom, since 2007, they have been mounting. Municipalities are owing Eskom, places like Soweto, 18 billion, and they're not even collecting that. They need to go to NERSA and ask for cost-reflective tariffs, and they're not even there. We had, as business, to go down on our knees to say, but we can help through the the independent power producer program when we were limited to 1 megawatt.
Yeah,
now we're on 100.
But also, Ntate Mohale, there's been no stability in terms of leadership. I don't know how many CEOs Eskom has had in the last short while. Andre de Ruyter joined about 2 years ago.
In fact, we had 12 CEOs in the last decade. We had probably 15 chairmen. We had 60 non-executive directors that were collectively paid 514 million rand. And
we've also had a war room. We've also had a war room headed by the then Deputy President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa.
Absolutely correct, my dear brother. At some stage, poor Pagamane Hadebe didn't know whether he's reporting to the Eskom board, whether he's reporting to the war room, whether he's reporting to the portfolio committee on the Department of Public Enterprises. But I think the problems can be laid down to 3 major themes. Number 1 is state capture that hollowed out the skills. Number 2, it's really just bad governance. Cooperative governance is how you separate ownership from control. The last piece it's around the planned and preventative maintenance that Eskom should have embarked upon for all these years, and through successive ministries. 2010, Malusi Gigaba said, keep the lights on at whatever cost. And now, because of the elections, we're told the same story. In 2010, when they had a budget of 2 billion rands for diesel, they spent 10 billion. There were no consequences. And who are the people who owned those contracts? ANC cadres. Today, we probably are transporting 20 trucks a day, every day, on the roads, away from raid, when Transnet used to do this effectively and efficiently when it was still capable. And those trucks are owned again by cadre of the ANC. So I think to the president, we need to say, let's stop state capture. Let's stop cadre deployment, because you are giving us absolutely the worst. If you are giving us the best, we'd leave you alone. But that's how we got the weekend special Des Van Rooyen when you fired in Tanzania, because state capture works that way. You replace the good cops with the bad cops. You create a shadow state. You repurpose state-owned enterprises. And of course, at last, you want to go after national treasury. So the money that Eskom needs to be able to service its debt, it's bigger than most African economies. That debt is approaching 500 billion. Lastly, Braden, we chose to build the biggest coal-fired power stations in the world, simultaneously, concurrently, and in parallel. Medupi, Kusile, and Ingula, which is hydroelectric power, being the 4th utility in the world. 9.6 gigawatts. This is not even working at 60% capacity. The 4th unit imploded. It needs to be replaced because, again, the ANC-led government chose, through Chancellor House, to take a stake in Hitachi. So when the cost moved from 30 billion to 54 billion, instead of holding Hitachi finally accountable, they say, no, 20% of 54 billion is much more, because now we can pay our employees at Lutu.
So we are basically facing this crisis because of some of those mistakes in the past and missteps, and hopefully going forward, things will be dealt with differently. Thank you for your insights and your time at this time here. Ntate Bonang Mohale, the president of BUSA, that's Business Unity South Africa, who's also the Vice Chancellor of the University of the Free State.